Hey, what's going on, Los Angeles? What is up, Trojan family? Welcome to the USC LAFB show here on the LAFB network. This is your daily dose of USC Trojans news. Sorry, been a long weekend. Obviously, a fantastic Saturday. USC winning 73-13. Excuse me, over Missouri State. Dominating win. Wasn't able to jump on here Sunday, Monday, just, family stuff, and obviously still dealing with this cold, as you can tell. So not going to jump on and recap the game, but want to talk a little bit just about the dynamism that this team showed and demonstrated, and why, even though playing a team that is way under their level, to beat them to that fashion, to me, shows extreme growth for this team. Now, I'm not putting a ton of stock in it. We got to wait till we see some real competition. Obviously, Georgia Southern, a lot of storylines with that, which we'll get to later in the week, who they play on Saturday. But again, not going to be a big competition where we can, really ride home about what we saw. But you can take good things. I wrote after the game a What We Learned piece where I kind of document all of that, what from Jaden Mayava to the defensive line, to the offensive line, to the receiving core. So you can read that over at LAFBnetwork.com. I won't belabor all those points, but certainly something you can take a look real quick. But today, Tuesday, the coaches poll, the AP poll comes out. So I want to come in here and talk about that. Neither have USC ranked still, and so wanted to give my thoughts on, in my opinion, how egregious that is. But first, quickly, new title sponsor for the show, for USC LAFB across the board, sponsoring us for the entire football season. Ecstatic. Shows we're building something here, right? We got the fan base, we got you, the fans, the listeners, the viewers. They're really helping us, and now we have sponsors and brands that want to work with us. So, Sleeper, I'm sure many of you heard, are you using the Sleeper app for daily fantasy football? Many of you probably use it for season-long leagues, but it's the best out there for daily fantasy football, and you're missing out if not. Similar to what you've heard in the past, other software, I won't mention names, but it's as simple as picking more or less for your favorite quarterback. Jaden Mayava, will he have more touchdowns, less touchdowns? Will Jacoby Lane have more catches, less catches? It's as simple as that. You stack different players and and win real money. So think you know football, then try to turn your football knowledge into real money with the Sleeper app, the ultimate fantasy sports app that can turn game day into payday. Just download the Sleeper app and pick more or less on your favorite players. With more stats than any other daily fantasy app, just choose two or more of your favorite players from pregame or live during the game. Pick more or less from the predicted stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money if your picks win. Use the promo code USCLAFB, the name of the channel, real easy, USCLAFB, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. So once again, use promo code USCLAFB, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. If you want to stick with college football, it's great for this coming game. As I mentioned, Jacoby Lane, Mekhi Lemon. You can pick more or less, stack those. You can grab players from other games, add it to your parlay, if you will. Or NFL season's kicking off, obviously, this week. So plenty of picks you can do in the NFL. Major League Baseball they have on there. And obviously coming soon, NBA and NHL as well. So download the Sleeper app. Promo code USCLAFB, $100 match bonus. All right. So both polls came out. USC moved up one spot in the AP poll, I believe from 30 to 29. So did not crack the top 25, but they did move up. In the coaches poll, they moved down from 29 to 32. So apparently, regardless who you play, hanging 73 points on a team, not playing your starters at all in the second half is a bad thing, and you move two spots. Now, we all know these rankings mean nothing right now. And I've said a few times, I don't know if I've got on my soapbox here yet on camera, but I hate preseason rankings. I love them for the fodder. Like, it's fun to talk about. It gives me something to talk about, and whether it's complain or praise, it gives all of us fans on Twitter during the games or whatever to talk about. What I hate about them is while right now they quote-unquote mean nothing, they still get used on resumes for arguments later in the season. Now, teams that are ranked preseason that end up being bad usually are bad pretty early on. Like, it happens fairly quick. So it doesn't have I'm not saying it has like an altering effect to that extent, but there are teams that can kind of start off at, let's say, 11 or 12 and hang around in that 20, 21, 22 range with a loss or two. And then all of a sudden, other teams that have beaten them are like, well, look, we got a top 25 win on our resume. When that team probably never should have been in the top 25 to begin with. But because they started there in the preseason before anyone saw any football, before anyone even knows what goes into these rankings. Like, some say, well, it's based on last year and what you did in the offseason. Right? So, like, the big argument for USC is like, well, they went 7-6. Boise State was the top 25 team to start the season because they were in the playoff. Okay. So if you're basing it on last year, how is Oklahoma 18? Oklahoma did win 6-7 last year. They lost to Navy in the bowl game. Well, Oklahoma got John Mateer. They upgraded their defensive coordinator. So they're going to be better. Okay. Boise State lost arguably the best college football player in all of the land, Ashton Genty, to the draft, 6th overall. You don't think that means they're not probably a playoff team again this year? USC added a bunch of depth on every position, added some extreme coaching hires, were in every game last year, had a lead in the fourth quarter. You don't think they might be better than 7-6 this year with an easier schedule? So my bone with it is there's no consistency. Like, there's no rhyme or reason. Like, some teams, we can use common sense and say, yeah, that team was dominant last year. They should be a top 25 team again this year. But there's a handful of teams that it's just like, yeah, we like this team. Let's just throw them in there. They made some nice moves. They'll be better. They can't be that bad again. Oklahoma can't be a 6 weeks team 2 years in a row. No way. Top 25. So that's my whole issue with the preseason rankings. Excuse me. Now you see the post-week 1 rankings come out, right? And obviously we know Alabama fell some. I think they fell to 17, which is like their lowest ranking in a decade or whatever in the AP poll after losing to Florida State. We see USC, obviously, like I mentioned, not ranked again. We see, Notre Dame and Miami shift slightly. Texas and Ohio State shift slightly. And so, stuff like that is, par for the course, right? USC, though, absolutely destroys a team, scoring the most points they've scored since 1930. The most points they've scored in a season opener since 1929. They didn't play their starters in the second half. Jade Mayava was the Big Ten Player of the Week playing 2 quarters. They scored on every offensive drive. They scored a touchdown on every offensive drive. The defense, yes, had the blip, the blown coverage that gave up a touchdown. The second and third and fourth string were dominant in the second half. They scored almost the equal amount of points as the starters. So I say all this, that this is not a game where you're like, oh, USC beat up on Missouri State. They're proving to be a playoff contender. Like, no, we're not there yet. Absolutely not. But to see what the landscape of college football was, and to not say, okay, USC is probably a top 25 team compared to these other 25 teams. So here's another example. And it's going to sound like I'm just picking on Oklahoma, but they're an easy one right now. Oklahoma opened their season against Illinois State, an FCS school, right? USC is still the only program in college football to never play an FCS program. Missouri State was an FCS program last year. They move up to FBS and Conference USA. keeping USC's intact. So Missouri State, for all their not great they were still at least an FBS program. Oklahoma played an FCS program. Not only did John Mateer, this savior of a quarterback, and I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback, but not only did he play the entire game, but going into the fourth quarter, it was a 21-3 game. The mighty Oklahoma Sooners, 18th ranked Oklahoma Sooners at home, up 18 points, 21-3 entering the fourth quarter. They end up winning 35-3. Not saying that's nothing, but I wouldn't exactly call that a 73-point lashing. And they stay pat, 18th. Again, we can't always base on last year, but just looking at last year, Illinois State lost to Missouri State. They were in the same conference last year. Missouri State beat them 41-7. Missouri State beat Illinois State by a larger margin than Oklahoma beat Illinois State. Now, a lot can change over a year, obviously. But that same Missouri team, same coach, same quarterback, same running back, just got beat 73-13. And the team that scored 73 went down 2 spots in the Coaches Bowl. It's just kind of fascinating to me. Everyone can make their own thoughts that it's hate, it's whatever. I don't think it's that. I think there are, I think there are absolutely some biases with voters, whether it's coaches or the AP, on kind of patterns, if you will. And USC over the last, basically since 2023, so the last 2 years, have shown patterns of not only inconsistency, but not dominant play. So I'm sure that there was some of that thought process of like, well, this looked really good, but we've seen 2 years of USC beat up on bad teams and just not compete with good teams or not beat good teams. So until we see that, we're not going to reward them. So there could be certainly some of that, and I get that. I just don't know how common sense of here and now, 2025, September 2nd, can see what we watched over this weekend across all of college football and not say, based on what we saw this weekend, USC is not a top 25 program. Regardless of opponent, I don't see how you could watch Oklahoma play a worse Illinois State team and USC doubled up their points and their quarterback played half the quarters. I don't know. I mean, they'll have plenty of time to correct it. Obviously, this is all on a Tuesday rant for fun. But let me know your guys' thoughts. I won't belabor it anymore. I just found that interesting. So, yeah, not top 25. It is what it is. They probably won't be this week either after beating, all things go well against Georgia Southern. So they'll probably take until their Purdue matchup to potentially get some of that, unless they go on. And again, I don't want to start disrespecting Georgia Southern, who, is I think a solid program. And I know all the stories of Clay Helton. We'll get into that later in the week. But if USC goes out and beats them, puts up 70 again, maybe they'll sneak in 25. Then you put up 140 points in 2 weeks. You should get some talk. But anyway, we'll get to that bridge when we get to it. Quickly, before we wrap up the show, just want to mention last sponsor for the show. Again, love these are rolling in. And that's thanks to you guys for listening and supporting. I'll be quick. ZipRecruiter, I'm sure everyone's heard of them, right? If you need to hire, if you need new employees, there's no better place to go than ZipRecruiter. 4 to 5 employees who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And if you go to ZipRecruiter.com/audio, that's ZipRecruiter.com/audio right now, you can try it for free. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. Try it for free. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. All right, that's all the time I got. We will be back tomorrow for our 7 p.m. Pacific time call-in show. So make sure to tune in for that. Had a lot of calls last week. It was a ton of fun. So we'd love to have you on here on the USC LAFB channel. I might actually be back on earlier with another video tomorrow. Got some recruiting news. I'm trying to keep some daily recruiting updates, and then we can keep the more this season stuff with the rest of the crew, Madman Coach, and obviously the great Tim Prengley. So we'll be back with that more stuff tomorrow. Hopefully having daily videos for you here on USC LAFB. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you have not already. If you want to become a member here on the channel, or if you want to subscribe on on LAFBnetwork.com, 20% of your membership or subscription will go to help support youth sports initiatives right here in Los Angeles. Plus, you'll get some merchandise perks. You can check out all of our USC merch at LAFBnetwork.com. Plus, you'll get some exclusive content, and we're going to be doing some meetups throughout the season that you will have access to. So if you want to become a member, it certainly helps us out, and you can help support youth sports right here in LA. Make sure to check out Sleeper, promo code USC LAFB. Thank you, as always, Trojan family, for making this a part of your day. This is going to be a hell of a season. I am ecstatic. It was so fun to be at the Call-In again on Saturday. I thought it was a great crowd for the matchup. We had a ton of fun, and I just can't wait to watch this season and engage with all of you and hang out and watch this team hopefully do some great things. So that's all for me. As always, fight on.